let's go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Villa Park podcast. I know we were scheduled to come on Tuesday, and I know we were scheduled to come on Wednesday, but unfortunately, life took over. We're here now. Better late than never is what I always say. I'm here with Ryan McGeown from the Up the Villa channel. Thanks for hopping on, mate. How are you feeling?
Very good, mate. Very good. In a much better mood than the last time we broke up for an international break. So, yeah, all good, mate. Happy to be on.
Lovely, lovely. And just before we crack on, folks, we are over 6,100 subscribers. We're on the way to 10K. We want to hit that milestone, hopefully before the end of the season. We have big things coming this season, and hopefully we can deliver. But we can't do that without your support. So please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, put a comment in the video, anything you like. Now, Ryan, first things first, I think we'll talk about the England match, won't we? Obviously, the lads there are flying. Morgan Rogers with a goal and assist, Ollie Watkins with a goal, Konza with an assist, all within the first 20 minutes. So, as a Villa fan, it's great, but for obvious reasons, I'm not going to get too much into it. But as a Villa fan, it's obviously great to see that the lads are flying and carrying their good form going into this international break.
Yeah, it's huge. I feel like we've seen the benefits of Morgan Rogers' good performance for England last time out, and he's sort of carried that confidence into the last round of games, and his confidence has been slowly building, hasn't it, throughout this 4-game winning run. And again, he's took it to the international stage, and it's great to see Ollie stepping up in place of Harry Kane and grabbing a goal. And obviously Konza is at a stage where I think he's at a career high confidence level. Like he just looks untouchable. You know, when he's on the ball, there's like an aura about him that he fully backs himself. And we've seen a couple of these Miranda-ing runs from defence into midfield and breaking in between the lines and stuff like that. So his confidence is sky high. So for him to continue that with England and grab an assist as well, it's super great for us Villa boys, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And just on to Morgan Rogers, obviously there's been, a lot of talks of he hasn't really been performed to the level of last season, but when he was obviously with England in the last international break, he was flying. He looked great on the ball, the marauding runs that we've always loved seeing Rogers do. And obviously tonight he's got himself a goal and an assist. And then he comes back to Villa and he hasn't set the heights, although he did get an assist for the goal on Man on Sunday. Is this now hopefully the start of him starting to come back into life, or is this just a case he's better around the players in England than he is at Aston Villa?
No. I think it was a difficult start to the season for him. So playing for England was probably a welcome break, change of scenery, like you say, different teammates. But I feel like when he did come back, his performances have progressively got better. I feel like he was really good on Sunday. Yeah, it was Sunday. He was really good on Sunday. More of the Rogers that we know. He's finding loads of space in between like the midfield and defence, and he was back to creating havoc. And look, I've been frustrated with his performances at the start of the season, like just seeing how wasteful he was in the final third after doing the good work and finding space. It's difficult to find space as a number 10 in the Premier League, and he finds it so well, and everything was just bouncing off him, and it was a tough watch at times. But one thing I'd say about Rogers during all this, he hasn't hidden. I've seen numerous amounts of players don a Villa shirt and hide, but Rogers hasn't hidden. He's always been an option to play a ball in for. He's never once shied away from the challenge, and Emery stuck with him, and Emery's going to try and play him into form, and that's what he's done. And I feel like he's getting there. So again, it'll be another boost. Him scoring for England, his first international goal, and hopefully that momentum carries on with Aston Villa now when he gets back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. For myself now, I just think that at times, he has been a bit wasteful in possession, not just in the final third, but all over the pitch for me. I mean, sometimes he hasn't been able to make that 5-yard pass or the simple choice. He's trying to make the hard choices. He's trying to beat a man when he doesn't need to beat his man. When he has opportunities to take a shot, he doesn't. He's trying to pass it, and the pass is just not on. For me, it's the decision making at the minute, but I just think that he will come to light with that. I do believe that as the season goes on, I do think he'll progressively get better, and I hope he does. I know Emery has stuck with him. Didn't matter how bad he played, he hasn't dropped him because he still believes he's the talisman. He's the main man for Aston Villa. That's a good thing to have from your manager. Completely back your player. Doesn't matter how bad he is, because the only way he can get better is to keep playing games. It's not to sit there and rot on the bench. But that being said, some managers are different. Some managers could have put Morgan Rogers on the bench to try and get him motivated back into the team. Some deal with it differently. But Emery seems to be the one to say, no, stay on that pitch, keep going and going and going, and eventually everything will fall into place for you. So that's a good thing to have. But now forwarding into Ollie Watkins obviously gets himself a goal, but then goes back to the Ollie Watkins that we kind of all know and love, score all the hard ones, not so much the easy ones, and then unfortunately did injure himself in the process of hitting his leg into the post and was taken off at half time. Hopefully that's just a precaution and nothing too serious with that one, Ryan.
Yeah, hopefully, because I thought again on Sunday his performance was one of his better. Look, we talk about Rodgers having a tough start to the season, but I think the whole of the front line, you could probably group about 4 of them, whatever combination we played, really struggled to get that synergy. And I feel like Watkins was very central and very obvious how he was trying to get the ball to him, and it made him an easy target to defend. But I feel like against Burnley, the little tactical shape shift, introducing Marlon up there, just give Watkins a bit more freedom to move around, and him gravitating towards the left and creating that space opened up the chance for the first goal that Marlon buried. So I feel like he's slowly getting back into it as well. Obviously, the goal against Fulham he took really well, and strikers their confidence is fed off the goals. So for him to go and do it in an England shirt tonight, when if Harry Kane's fit, Harry Kane plays, and Harry Kane gets his goal for England pretty much every game. So that's the level you've got to get to. You've got to come in and you've got to get your goal, and you got to perform when Kane's not around. And look, everyone knows Kane is the main man. His goal scoring at the minute is unreal. So there is that little bit of pressure when you're coming to England that you've got to step up into his shoes and lead the line. And he's done that. He's got his goal. Unfortunately, he's missed one right on the line and injured himself. Hopefully, it's just an impact injury and a bit of a bruise, and it's only a friendly, so precaution. But it's good that he's got that goal, because again, it's all confidence with Ollie, isn't it? And if Ollie's confident, then he puts in top performances.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously when you are Harry Kane, it's a given that he's going to start, isn't it? Regardless if he's the captain of England or whatnot. But the goals that he has, his ability on the ball, and the way he presses off the ball, he just gives England that different dynamic, because he does like to drop deep. He likes the wingers to kind of run in behind him. These are different things that Watkins or an Ivan Toney or any English striker going in probably won't offer compared to a Harry Kane, because Harry Kane for me is probably England's best ever striker, just in terms of the way that he plays as a striker. He's such a complete player, and it pains me to say it as an Irish fan. Obviously, you can just see he's levels above everybody else, in my opinion, and it just goes to show that when I see that they don't have Harry Kane, I think England's levels almost drop. Although they are still very good and they kind of get the handy games when they come by them for obviously for the friendlies but even when they're playing in their qualifying games, you can see the level sort of drops. They still win comfortably enough, but the level isn't exactly quite as say English fans would be accustomed to when Harry Kane's in that squad. Ryan, what would you say about that?
Yeah. Would you say Harry Kane's underrated? Because his level of goal scoring, especially going to the German league, he's absolutely tore it up. You know, we've blinked and he's scored 100 goals already. But his all-round play and his ability to drop off and ping balls, and if you get the right personnel around him, you know, if you get runners around him, your Sakas, and you had your Rashfords and Sterlings before that, when we got to the Euro final, you get the right balance of team around him, and he's unreal. He's absolutely unreal, and he's finishing. That's why I kind of feel like he's underrated, because his finishing is elite. Like, you know, all types of goals, headers, set pieces, his one-on-ones, his finishing from distance. He's got the lot. He's just got the lot, and maybe we see him back in the Premier League to try and get Shearer's record soon. But it looks like he's having the time of his life at Bayern Munich at the minute. So yeah, good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't even feel like he's a striker, though, doesn't it? Not like he just kind of seems to float everywhere. And when he's up in that area of the pitch, like you say, all types of goals that he scores, you know, with his feet on the volley, you know, with his head, like he just seems to score all these different type of goals. And that's obviously going to do him the world of good. And he'll definitely be in the seat for the World Cup. But coming away from Harry Kane, and now we kind of want to talk about Aston Villa's form before coming into this international break, and I want to just talk about the form that happened before the previous international break. Obviously, we didn't get off to the best of starts. We weren't even scoring goals to begin with, never mind getting any wins. And then we go into the international break at a time where it was a chance for us to reset. It was a chance for us to reflect on what went wrong. Why are we not performing to the levels that we know we can? Why are the opportunities not coming? How come we're not scoring any goals? Are we too predictable? Are we, you know, trying to too hard and defenders can just read us? And then after that international break, all of a sudden, we've won 4 games in a row. We've scored more in probably about 1 game than we did in the previous 7 or 8. But we've now, this international break has come at the wrong time for us, because this is always the flip of a coin for international breaks, Ryan. You know, sometimes it comes and you're like, happy days, let's reset, let's focus. And then the next time it comes, you're on the momentum, and your momentum kind of halts a little bit because you've got this international break now that we have at the minute. At the back of us having 4 wins in a row, it's not that it's frustrating, but at the same time, though, Ryan, it's good that we have got that run and we have put ourselves in a position now that we can start to look up the table rather than down. But that being said, this international break for me has probably come at the wrong time for Aston Villa.
Yeah, you never want these breaks when you've got the momentum that we had. You know, you're winning football games back to back. You just want the next one straight away. But I feel like this break, the mood will be good around Bodymore. You know, you're looking at preparing for Tottenham, and it's a lot more positive, isn't it? It's a good break. Whereas the last one, you obviously don't want a break. Well, you needed the break because of the form. But then you don't want to, because you don't want to sit there for 2 weeks without scoring a goal or anything like that, and hardly any points. But yeah, you know, thinking back to that last international break, I think the Villa boys just went mad, didn't they? I think Cash blasted in a couple. I think Tielemans scored. So they got the goals then, and they come back, and yeah, we found that form. We found that form that we desperately needed, and obviously, you know, to put in the performance we did against Burnley, which I think was probably our best team performance of the season. You just want to play again, but now we prepare for Tottenham. We be confident. We just pray that we get every player back, like, injury free. I don't know. Has Belgium played yet? I'm interested to see Onana's minutes because I don't
think
quite
Belgium
sure I agree.
are playing tonight, but that's what the next point I was going to come on to you about was Amadou Onana getting a call up. Clearly had been injured since I think the second or third game of the season, hadn't been featured too much. This was clearly a decision made by not actually the Belgium squad as such, but it was actually the medical teams of both Aston Villa and the Belgium medical team. Clearly deeming Onana fit. Villa were kind of reluctant in letting Onana go because obviously his match fitness wouldn't be up to scratch as say to the other Belgian players and probably would be at risk of getting injured again. But that being said, for me personally, I think for him to go on international break could do him the world of good, that could be the opportunity where he's going to train at a good level, he hopefully get a bit of game time and then come back to us with fresh legs. And I know some people might look at it as, the dreaded international break, who's getting injured, could be out for the season. All these things always sort to play their parts, but I think this has come at a good time for Onana, in my personal opinion, Ryan.
Yes, because you'd just be training at Villa Park, wouldn't you? You'd be at Bodymoor Heath. At least there is an element of getting away. Obviously, you've been on the treatment table for the last few weeks, so a change of scenery and to come away. But and then you're potentially getting minutes. I guess there would be some conversations between Villa and Belgium about how many minutes, because with Tielemans out as well, they need their midfield, don't they? So you wouldn't like to see him play 180 minutes after not playing for Villa and not really be available for Tottenham. So you just hope that Belgium would take care of him as well, understand that he has been out for so long and he's recuperating, and yes, get him around the squad, give him some minutes, but just be mindful that you've got to look after his personal being as well, But yeah, for me, we've got to get him back. We've Tielemans ruled out for another 5 weeks. Onana now, they're not even massive injuries, are they? Just niggly injuries all the time, and it just he gets up to speed, and he bangs a few goals in here and there, and you think, go on, lad, kick on, and just little niggling injuries that just derail him all the time. So, he really needs to shake this injury record off, and hopefully he gets a bit of luck and gets a run in the team, because I really like him. I think he's got a unique frame. His ability to cover ground. He just eats up the ground, man, and that bite that he can give you. I want to see more of it, but he just can't stay fit. So hopefully, he can put this behind him, get back at Villa, and put in a good shift now, because our midfield just keep dropping off. That we lost Barkley for so long, and just getting a bit of stability in the middle is what we need now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just think that he's one of them players who has such a physical presence, in my opinion, but his legs just seem to be made of glass, and it's so annoying. One little crack could have him out for weeks, or a little pull of the hamstring here, he's out for months on end. And you say it yourself, he covers ground so well, and I just think that when he's not in the team, we do miss that. We do miss that little bit of tenacity in that midfield area. Someone who covers the ground so well, someone who can pick out a pass as well for the height to him and his physical presence that he has. When he comes back, obviously he will offer that again. Will he go straight into the starting lineup? I don't know, because Lamar Bogart seems to be playing very well at this minute. If you ask me, I think it'd be hard not to drop Lamar Bogart. I just think he's one of them players that should keep playing, because he seems to be doing well. But I think Lamar Bogart would understand himself that he will know that he'll probably be back on the bench when Tielemans, Onana come back, and obviously when Barkley there as well. But I think probably Lamar Bogart will be ahead of Barkley at this rate. I know Barkley was off for personal reasons, and that's completely fine, because at the end of the day, footballers are all still human. They're not just footballers. But that being said, just glad to see that Barkley was on the pitch. Hopefully all his issues are resolved, and that's just something for me that I just think that once that's gone and he's focusing on football, happy days. But just getting back to Onana, there is that little bit of annoyance with his injury record. It looks like, I think he's missed like 50 to 55 games or something for Aston Villa, and that's quite a lot. Like, those could have been games where he could have had a huge impact on, or he just could have got a few goals from that. Like, the record would have been completely different, but the injury seems to set him back a bit, doesn't it?
It does, and we talk about 55 games there. That's huge, and it's not even like he's done a bad injury. It's not even like we've had like Buendia, Mings, Kamara, all have bad injuries, but Onana's are just niggly injuries, isn't they? Like, it's really frustrating. But on your point on Bogard, I've absolutely loved his performances this season. I watched him a lot at pre-season. I thought he looked like a coming of age pre-season for him. Just this like aura of calmness on the ball, and again, like confidence as well. Like, his confidence is just rising and rising. And like Sunday, when he was like put his foot on the ball, drop his shoulder, dip past the midfielder and lay it off, I thought, flipping hell, that is confidence, like sky high. And just his tactical awareness of when he was dropping in and making up a back three, and when to move into midfield, and when to be like accept the ball and be press resistant. And he was absolutely brilliant. And look, for youngsters, you get few opportunities, I think, to come in and make your mark. And like, this was his moment, and he's done it. He's broke through in my eyes now, and like he's a contender. He's a contender to start games. Like, this guy's now, like, it's not your Swiss Army knife where, we need a right back, we need someone to play centre back, we need someone to play centre midfield. I feel like he's now announced himself as a midfielder. Yes, he'll be able to help out and be that utility man, but he's proven to me that his best position and where he needs to grow as a footballer is in that central midfield position, because I thought with him and Kamara kind of doing the same role Kamara was doing on the left, it gave us a lot of balance. It allowed our fullbacks to push on, and it gave us a great base to attack. And a lot of the momentum of attacks from Sunday was coming from the work that Bogard and Boubacar Kamara were doing in that central midfield position. So it's looking healthy, and it will look even more healthier with Onana and Barkley back, and Tielemans, and that there is looking like a very, very strong central midfield lineup if we can just keep them all fit, and Barkley as well. Obviously, personal reasons, that is what it is. You've got to deal with that. But at the start of last season, he was chipping in. He was chipping in, like that goal in Leipzig, to win us that Champions League game. And there was other goals. Palace went there, and Bournemouth that he chipped in. So he was making a real impact until, again, little niggly injuries at the end of the season sort of derailed that. So hopefully now we can kick on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to talk about a bit on Sunday's game before we kind of look at the rest of our fixture list coming for after international break. Something that I always call for was the 4-4-2 to come back on the basis of that's where I felt like that was our bread and butter, being a compact team, a counter-attacking team that hurts other teams and what they try to do. We contradict others. And we shied away from that, though, didn't we, Ryan? We're going to a 4-2-3-1 where I felt we were a little bit too predictable. We were a little bit too static. But the last few games, I've kind of noticed we've had players in behind Watkins. Now, I feel like Emery, what he was doing, he was trying different players, which nothing wrong with that. I have absolutely no objection whatsoever. But with Daniel Malen, it feels like he's the best equipped because obviously he's a striker and a winger. I feel like he was best equipped for that role because, like you said, when Watkins like to shift out, who's going to take that space? And I feel like Malen's instinct was quick enough to take that. We've seen the ball there from Kamara and the amount of space Malen had. And then from Malen then to dictate to Bogard, no, give it to Rodgers. He'll then give it to me because he wasn't in the line of pass. Then all of a sudden, Rodgers gets the ball. Marlon then receives it and puts his absolute foot through it after just one touch, bang, puts his foot through it. But when we didn't have the ball, and this is something that I've really missed from Aston Villa, we had nearly 8 men behind the ball. Remember when we used to have that shape where you had the 5 that were along the back and then the 3 in front of that real central shape that I felt we missed. And I felt that, Bogart and Kamara, when they were on the pitch together, they really gave us that, didn't they? Like you said, like Kamara doing it on the left, Bogart doing it on the right. It looks like quite a good balance where I feel like sometimes, obviously it depends on certain games, but sometimes when you had McGinn and Kamara next to each other, McGinn feels a bit isolated at times because that's not his best role. Where when you had Kamara and Bogart, McGinn could flourish a bit more going for the forward, as we've seen and picking up a few goals in the last few weeks, and then picking up an absolute pile driver against Fulham. But it just feels like if we are going back to this 4-4-2, Ryan, I think this is the best formation that suits the players that we have at this minute. I don't necessarily think the 4-3-1 is the one that works, or 4-3-3, because I feel like we're too static and that we are just too predictable, in my opinion. But the 4-4-2 or the 4-2-2, whatever people want to call it, gives us a bit more flexibility, allows our 2-10s to kind of tuck in, and our strikers can, move around and really confuse defenders. That's the players we have to suit that system, and I just don't think we should shy away from that.
No, and we've always struggled against the back three. Man United, Crystal Palace. We tried everything against Palace, and you felt on Sunday that Bogart dropping in to make a back three allowed like Cash and Luca Digne to bomb forward, and you've temporarily got your back 3 and 5, where when we played Palace before, we tried a back 3 and wing backs and 3 midfield and 2 up top, and it just didn't work. But we sort of found ways to shape shift, like change our shape in game and then come back to a shape and go into another shape. And I think that's what made it all more less predictable. Like I was watching the game and go, flipping out, he's moving here, he's moving there. Like sometimes Kamara would drop a bit more forward where he can play them killer balls into the front line. Luca Digne was bombing forward, and these guys being set allowed like our fullback to get forward, Pau to be more around the midfielders to break the lines and get balls into Rodgers. And it just helped. And having like Watkins and Marlon up front together, it occupied that back 3. But then you stuck Rodgers just in between the lines there, and like the one defender was like being attracting to Rodgers, and then Watkins would pull the other defender, and it was leaving Marlon with like one-on-ones everywhere with banks of space. But what I enjoyed about Marlon's performance, it was very intelligent. This guy is a good footballer. I think he's a real good footballer. And the space it was finding in his body shape to receive the ball was giving him that momentum to go forward and hit the target. And he just buzzes around that area. Because for me, he's not a right winger. He's not that guy that's going to hug the touchline. He is a guy, and he's not really your number 9 lead the line guy. He is just a busy guy in the middle, playing off the striker, and that role suited him. And I think Emery was talking after the game, saying like we've been trying to get an extra man up there and see how he fits in, because Villa wanted him for a while, so there's definitely a plan to get him in. But Emery always he builds his structures, doesn't he? And he won't just throw him in; it has to be built and ready. And I feel like it was ready on Sunday, and we've reaped the benefits from it. And then you start looking, okay, if we're going to go this way, where can Sancho fit in? Where does Elliott fit in? Where does Gesson fit in? And you start thinking, okay, I think Gesson could play that Marlon role as well. I think he could occupy the number 9 role as well in that forward line, which Watkins did the other day. Sancho on the left, I feel like Elliott can cover that right side where McGinn was. So it opened up a lot of thought for me. It was a real interesting performance, and yeah, I'm looking forward to Tottenham now to see, do we carry on with this, or is there a different plan? Was that just a one-off plan, or whether like Marlon, is he going to be like a permanent fixture in the squad? Is it looking like a Watkins Marlon partnership? So yeah, there's a lot of options opened up by that performance, and the squad looks good for it as well.
Well, absolutely, and you've lined us up perfectly here for Tottenham. But just before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, we are over 6,100 subscribers. We're on the road to 10K. We want to hit that milestone before the end of the season, and you could help us do that. We have big plans coming up throughout the whole season, and hopefully you can join in on this journey. We also have a membership of $1.99 a month. That's actually less than a pint of Guinness here in Ireland, because a pint of a Guinness here now in Ireland is costing you an arm and a leg. So clearly it's nothing. $1.99 a month. You're a Villa member of this podcast, part of the family. Why not? Hit that button just there. Hit the like button. Comment in on the show. Any opinion you like. This is a fans forum. This is your show. So, Ryan, on to Tottenham, as you've now pointed out. But before we get into Tottenham, our next set of fixtures are coming up are Tottenham away, Man City at home, Liverpool away, Go Ahead Eagles away. I think Bournemouth's at home or away. No, Bournemouth's at home, sorry.
Oh.
And then Leeds United are away. Not an easy set of fixtures considering the last four that we've had. So is that momentum going to be sunk down again, or is the momentum come at the right time for us we can put it up to these teams at the way that they're going?
Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to the Tottenham game. With Tottenham, I feel like they've made a real good start, solid start. Obviously, they've had a couple of blips at home though, which I kind of expected. Like with Thomas Frank going in there, that they beat Manchester City 2-0 away, and I feel like, yeah, I expected that one because counter-attacking set up. Thomas Frank was so good at that at Brentford, and and it was no surprise to me that they went to Man City and won 2-0, and it was no surprise to me that they drew 1-1 with Wolves and lost to Bournemouth at home, because I feel like where they're at home and they going to be the dominant team and they're going to have a lot of the ball, it's still very early days for Thomas Frank's Tottenham in that case, and how to dominate a game and be in control and try and break a team down at home. So I feel like for us, it should be the right time to go. And I feel like we haven't really had a game where like somebody's sort of come at us and been the more dominant team and give us a chance to really play on like transition. I feel like we are set up with some real good runners now. Rodgers and Guesson's a good ball carrier as well. He's had a slow start, Guesson, but I feel like there is a player in there, and we'll give him time and he'll come good. But I feel like, yeah, there is definitely one. There is definitely a baller in there. So yeah, we just got to remain patient with him. But yeah, I feel like tactically, yeah, it'd be nice to see us up against like the Tottenham and Manchester City at home. We've done all right. We've done all right the last few seasons. I think it's maybe 3 seasons now that they haven't got a result against us. So again, we seem to be good in them sort of games. You look back at Bayern last season and Manchester City last season, and when a big team like that has come to Villa Park and they open up and make the pitch big as well and go to play, it seems to suit us. Liverpool's difficult, but again, there's opportunities against Liverpool at the moment this season, especially defensively. But for Villa, I feel like we've got this momentum, and I feel like we need to go and attack these games. Like we need just to be a bit more loose up top. And, I know Henry likes his structure and keep it tight, but I feel sometimes when we're a little bit more reckless, a little bit more wild, and we're running with the ball, we cause havoc. We can cause real havoc. So I'd like to just see us be a little bit more adventurous in these games now, especially in the final third. Because I feel like structurally, defensively, we've been good all season. I know, like, we let 3 in against Palace, but I seen like a table the other day where it was like who'd conceded the least in Europe, and like we was in this like top 10 table. So I feel like structurally we're set, and like the first half of the season, it was mainly getting the synergy right in the final third, and you feel like that sort of like coming together in the next 4 wins. So we just want to see that momentum carried on, definitely into the Tottenham game. And yeah, our record's not been too bad at Tottenham either in the new stadium, has it? I know we lost there last season, but we have got 2 or 3 wins there. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, our record away to Tottenham in the new stadium, it hasn't been too bad. I know the first time we went back, we lost 3-1, but I think we were winning consecutively in the last while before the last season to be losing 4-1. But to come up against Tottenham now, I almost think it's kind of a good time for us to come up to go against Tottenham, simply because I think the new manager bounce has kind of gone from Tottenham a little bit. We've seen there against Wolves, they started to struggle against them, and now could that have just been a once-off? I don't know, but it's a very typical Spurs thing, though, Ryan, isn't it? They go and beat Man City away from home, and then come against Wolves at home and just struggle to beat them. It's almost like you can take the manager out of Spurs, but you can't take the Spurs out of the Spurs. Like, it's just you cannot do it. And I just think that we've come into this game now, and Thomas Frank doesn't exactly have a good record against Unai Emery in the Premier League. This could play to Unai's advantage as well. Albeit I know now Thomas Frank has better players at his disposal with the signings that he's made, and he's made some very good signings, might I add. With that being said, the record against Unai Emery still isn't great, and that could play into the psychological mindset for Thomas Frank if he doesn't get this right or he doesn't get that right, and then all Unai Emery has to do is tweak something, and you could see him lose the plot. But that being said, I just think that this game is probably come at the right time for us, because I think we seem to do well against Tottenham, and I just think that, like you said, defensively, I think we're sound midfield. We seem to have the solidarity back. The attacking could be a bit better, obviously, but that seems to be growing massively at the minute. Ooh, excuse me, sorry. And in goals, I think that's kind of a bit of a toss-up, really, isn't it? I mean, Bazot's been playing absolutely incredible. His shot stopping has been absolutely sensational. Where with Martinez, you almost get the feeling like some games does he really want to be there, and then some he performs really well, like he did against Everton. It's, for me, that's kind of an area that is really up for grabs. I think Martinez now has a keeper that knows who can push him, and when called upon, Bazot will put in a good performance. And coming up against Man City, yeah, we have a very good record now in the last while against Man City. There's obviously been a good while since the last time they got a result against us. Away to Liverpool, I think you're right. I think we need to attack Liverpool. If Liverpool go on the next 2 games on the run that they've been on from the last while, I think Liverpool could be there for the absolute taking. In Europe, you would expect us to win, wouldn't you? Like, I mean, go ahead, Eagles aren't exactly the strongest team that we're going to come up against, so hopefully you would expect 3 points there without any issues. And then you've got Bournemouth and Leeds, and they're the 2 games I'm actually more nervous about, to be honest with you, because if we come off the back of, say, Tottenham, City and Liverpool with 7 points, for argument's sake, and then you come up against a Bournemouth and Leeds and you get nothing out of them. Now, I know Bournemouth are a very good side. I'm not saying that they're not. But when you go and beat the big boys and then come up against the teams that are relatively your level and below it, and you get nothing out of it, a sense of frustration will still kick in, Ryan, won't it?
Oh, 100%, because it's always that saying, "Oh, we can beat Liverpool, but we can't beat Leeds." You know, you don't want to be
Yeah.
in that situation again. But yeah, we attack the next three. Obviously, when you was talking about Thomas Frank and Tottenham, then they've got Monaco away after us, so it's interesting for me. Like for Thomas Frank, he's never like managed a team in Europe before, especially the Champions League. So I'm interested to see how they sort of deal with that, because they played the European game, that Norwegian team, when it was Bode, and they drew 2-2, and then obviously they followed that up with a 1-1 draw against Wolves. So, you know, you talk about the players being experienced in Europe. It's the manager being experienced in it as well, and how to manage a team that plays on the weekend and then goes away to Europe and plays in midweek and then plays again. So it'd be interesting to see, you know, has he got one eye on that Monaco game? And it's something to watch, really, because Emery's got it down to a T at the minute, and we'll go ahead Eagles, don't we? Go ahead Eagles. I think we've got Tel Aviv, haven't we? In between, I think we might have Manchester City, Liverpool, then potentially Tel Aviv, and then on to the Bournemouth
Tel Aviv.
and Leeds game.
Tel Aviv.
So yeah, it's busy.
No, Tel Aviv is one that's, it's a very political one, isn't it? We don't know still the situation with said country. I'm not going to name them for obvious reasons, so I don't want to be too political, but we don't know whether they'll be kicked out of the competition or not. There's still a verdict still to be decided. One week it was said that, you know, it looks like Tel Aviv are going to be kicked out of European games, and then all of a sudden it's kind of dimmed down a bit. There hasn't really been much to said, and they had one European game off the back of their belt. So I don't think anything will happen, just simply because it's already one game in now, and then you're going to get really messy with the point system and everything else if you don't play that team. I just think they'll see out this competition. Will they make it through this league phase? I personally don't think, though. I don't think they're strong enough. But that being said, you never know, and there probably will be uproar if Israel, of course, I'm going to have to say it, unfortunately, but Israel, if they are not kicked out of any European games or qualification matches, there would be uproar, because the whole situation with Russia and Ukraine. Russia were kicked off within 2 days, and now Israel is 700 days, and they still haven't been kicked off anything. But shying away from that, because if I get political, I could be here all night, and I really don't. I really don't want to be.
Let's not go there.
Yeah. So coming back now to Aston Villa, but yeah, I think you're right. There is a game there for Tel Aviv. I think we should still beat them. It's obviously in Villa Park, so you would think that would be relatively an easy win. But
yeah, and then back to your point, really. Every game's difficult, isn't it, Martin? Like we do look at it on paper and go, yeah, Sunderland, we should beat them. Man United, yeah, and you do sort of map out wins in your head, but like the Premier League at the minute, it's like so. You know, you could be like a couple of % off it, and you're not going to get the result that you think you're going to get. You know, you've got to be on it for every single game, and like Bournemouth, flipping out, they're a tasty side now. They're so organised. You know, you sort of see like Iriola and Emery are cut from the same cloth. Now they're both like the Basque Country, and you can see tactically like they're very, very similar in their ideas and how they're set up, and it's always a game by game plan, and I think that's like kind of the advantage we have with Emery. Like it's like each game there's a plan, and we're always super organised, and there's always a tactical setup to it, and like. It hasn't come off so far this season, but you've seen games against Newcastle and Everton and stuff like that earlier on in the season where you could see what we was trying to do. You know, we was close to it, and it was just breaking down in the final third. And now that's starting to settle. We're starting to see a formation of good performances and solid structures. And we were just crying out for the goals. We were like desperate for goals, but we've scored 5 goals now in the last 2 games. So, this momentum really must carry on, and it really must carry on to Spurs.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, every single game is not an easy one, and especially in the Premier League. I mean, you look at teams and go, yeah, you should be beating them, but that said team could be coming off the back of 5 wins in a row, and we could be coming off the back of 4 losses in a row, and all of a sudden it's a hard game now. You just never get any easy games in the Premier League, especially in Europe. You do not get any easy games at all. And like you said, with Emery and Iriola, for that matter, they do take it game by game. It's not as if it's a 5-6 game plan. It's 1 game plan. This is the plan for that game. That's the plan for this game. And what I like is we don't exactly go in with a plan A for every game. We go in with an A, B, C, D. There's different plans that we have to try and get that result that we do desperately need. And Bournemouth, of course, they're sitting 4th in the league, aren't they? Like, they're flying at this minute, and if they keep it going, they could be up there come the time of Christmas. And if the confidence and momentum keep going, by all means, I mean, they're a great side at this minute. They're a great team to watch. They're very exciting. They lost the chunks of their back 4, then brought in players for pennies of what they received, and they're still flying. So clearly it goes to show that Iriola is a manager that has done so well with that team on probably such a little budget compared to the most leagues. And I just think that game against Bournemouth would probably be our most difficult.
Yeah. You'd hate to come off the back of these next 3 without a point, and then you're facing Bournemouth, because you'd be going, oh my God, that's tough. But look, we're a big team now, Villa are. We puff our chest out. We are a club that's playing in Europe for the 3rd season in a row, and we're a big team, and we should be going into these big games acting like that, because I felt like against Feyenoord, we did. I thought that performance against Feyenoord as a complete 90 minutes, as wasteful as the first half was in the final third, we still nullified that crowd, and then we got our goals, and we really controlled that game. And I thought, you know what? We look like a seasoned European side. Like, we look like a big team. We look like a team that played in the Champions League last season and got out the league stage in the top 8, and then got to the quarterfinals and was in the goal of taking it to extra time against PSG. But we looked like a real controlled European big team, man. And that final performance gave me a lot of confidence, and we backed it up then with that good performance against Burnley, and how we just controlled that game, and preserved our energy, and we didn't look stretched. We're playing that ball around, and we looked like we had all the time in the world, and we was opening players moves up, and we just look really good. And I feel like now we've got to attack these games now as a big team.
Absolutely. I mean, like you say, we do look like a seasoned European club, well-established Premier League club now. And when you say we're a big club now, that's probably the only point where I disagree with you. We've always been a big club. We're the biggest club in the Midlands. There's no doubt about it. And me, obviously, being from Ireland, who support Aston Villa, and funny enough, Ireland actually has a very big fan base of Aston Villa. And if people ask you, why do Irish people have such a big fan base in Villa? 9 times out of 10, the answer is going to be Paul McGrath. There's just no ifs or buts, anything about it. But that being said, we do look absolutely solid in Europe at this minute. I think we are levels above the teams that we're playing against at the moment. But that being said, when it comes to the knockout stages, that's when it gets really tough. And I don't really like that we're favourites for the Europa League, to be honest with you, Ryan, because when you're the favourites, then you're kind of expecting yourself to win it, where I kind of like us to be the underdogs on the back foot. That team that can take the game by the scruff of the neck, really say to you that, no, we're going to cause disruption, upsets. That's the Villa team I love. But when we're almost expected to win. We seem to almost drop the level. I'm not too sure if it's cockiness or overconfident. It just seems to fall all over the place for me. We've seen it last season when you're coming up against a team that you should be expecting to be, and then we don't. But then we go and beat, like you say, we go beat a Man City where it's a team where you probably would expect a point, but you get that win, the away win against Arsenal that we've done in the past, just stop them from winning the league. These are the games that I love, that we're not exactly the favourite, but we are a team that's going to disrupt big teams' momentums, and we've done it in the Champions League. Like, if we had got that comeback against PSG, could we have got to the final of the Champions League? Who would have known? It would have been all up for grabs at that point, because we would have come up against Arsenal. But that being said, I do like the look of us now at this current moment in time. And then when all our players come back, our squad is going to look ridiculous in terms of Tielemans, Kamara, McGinn, Onana, Bogart, Barkley, Emiliano Buendia, who I'd actually argue has been our best player this season, if you ask me. That's the midfield is pretty stacked. And then you've got the attack that's also could do with one or two more, in my opinion. Defense seems to be quite solid. And hopefully, I'd like to see Andreas Garcia probably break his way into the right back role eventually. And the goalkeeping department looks very strong. I just hope now in these next few weeks that when everyone's back fit, our squad can be utilised correctly.
Yeah, it definitely feels like this squad is strong enough to attack the Premier League and the Europa League without it having too much effect on performances in either competition. And you see with Marco Bizzot against Feyenoord and Bologna, like him coming in, like just the levels didn't drop off between having him in goal and Martinez in goal. And I feel like that Europa League shirt is Bizzot's at the minute. I think he's earned it, and I think he should start against Go Ahead Eagles. Yeah. And look, Aston Villa needed it, and Emi Martinez needed it. They needed a good number two, a solid number two that can come in, and your levels aren't dropping too much. Like Olsen, it was everyone was flapping, wasn't they? Everyone, even Villa's back line was flapping. He wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't a good goalkeeper either, but Marco Bizzot has just raised that level, and like if you see him in the team against Go Ahead, it's like, well, you've deserved it. So, crack on. There's no doubt in people's minds, and yeah, he's got his weaknesses a little bit. He's flapped at a couple that's been swung to his back post, but on the ball and he's shot stopping and he's passing out from the back and finding players. It's been really, really, really good. And I just feel like I say, like in the attacking department, like we're going to see what he does with Elliott. You feel like he's his next project. He's had Bogart, he's had Rodgers, and it feels like Elliott's the next one that he's moulding and getting him primed to come in. And we see what he does with Sancho, because obviously we're paying Sancho a lot of money, and I don't think Emery will waste him. I don't think so. Hopefully he can get over his illness as well, and just be available, because the few cameos that he has done, he has some nice touches, and he brings players into the game, and he creates combinations, and he makes people run around him. And I feel like when I was watching him just before that break, I thought, oh, okay, especially Maatsen as well. Like, okay, he's creating a bit of chaos here. Like, so I feel like, and yeah, I guess West Ham as well, with Watkins, Rodgers, Buendia, Marlon. If you can flip it out, if you can get all these boys chomping at the bit and get them in form and keep them fit, like, it's a big squad. It's a big squad, mate.
Absolutely, and the team is all dependent on the squad, and I think now that we should just about cover it for myself and you, Ryan. I think we spoke more than enough on, the lads doing well for England. I think we spoke more than enough on the fixtures that we've had before the international break, what's coming up now, and the size of the squad that we've got. And it just seems like we are on such a good momentum. And before we do go, folks, just remember, we are over 6,100 subscribers on YouTube. We hope now to get the 10,000 at the end of the season. And if you want to become a member, it's $1.99 a month, less than a pint of Guinness. Like I said earlier, it costs an arm and a leg now to get yourself a pint of Guinness. So please hit the member button, become a family member of the Villa Park podcast, and there'll be amazing, great things for you. So now, Ryan, I think that just about does it for myself and you. Thank you very much for coming on and taking the time to be with us.
Mate, it's been thoroughly enjoyable chatting Villa with you, mate. So thanks for having me on.
No problem. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, we all follow the Villa. Good night.